kickoff of the open wheel season. Speedweek is brought to you by Dodge. For performance, quality, safety, and value. Welcome home, America. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Speedweek. I'm Bob Jenkins. Die-hard race fans take... The season is about to get underway with 3 big events this weekend. The headliner is at Daytona International Speedway, and that's where our David Hobbs is standing by with a preview of the Sunbank 24.
Well, Bob, there were a few surprises during yesterday afternoon's practice and qualifying sessions. When IMSA first allowed the European Group C cars to come over for this race, they specifically excluded them from being able to win the pole position due to their unrestricted engines, more horsepower, and therefore quicker lap times. Well, it turns out the Nissan drivers had failed to read the fine print in the entry forms and only found out about this rule just before they went out to qualify yesterday afternoon.
Apparently IMSA has reserved the front row for GTP cars, which is a shame really, because half the prestige of going fast and testing is to capture the pole, and we were going to try and do that, and we have a lot of people that did a lot of work to do that, but unfortunately the rules have been changed or created that we cannot now go for the pole, which is a shame, but however, the race is the important thing.
Well, Bob, all that ruling became academic in the long run anyway, because in fact the man on the pole for the 2nd year in a row was Bob Wallen in his Yost Racing Porsche with a time of 1 minute 50.8, 115 miles an hour, way off last year's qualifying, but of course it was raining.
It was slippery and hairy, but I didn't try too hard because I want to win that pole, but I also want to win the race, and the race starts on Saturday and finishes on Sunday when the checkered flag drops.
Well, apart from the pole-sitting Porsche and the Nissans, one of the toughest teams here is going to be last year's winner, the Walkinshaw Jaguars. One of the drivers is Davy Jones, and of course he's on the outside of the front row. However, yesterday they too suffered a setback when John Nielsen lost control in the backstretch chicane during practice. Only the dirt embankment kept Nielsen from landing in Lake Lloyd. He was taken to the Halifax Medical Center for a CAT scan, but was released soon afterwards, absolutely okay. The team manager, Tony Dow, expects the car to be okay as well. The most successful mark, with 17 Daytona 24-hour wins, Porsche. 2 of America's great racing families will square off in Porsche 962Cs from the Dower racing team. And 3-time Indy 500 champion Bobby Unser will sub for his injured nephew Johnny, and it's his first ever IMSA start.
We're not really worried about the driving part of it. All the answers that are here are good drivers. There's not a problem with that. It's the time with the car to work out the little things. Get the car, have enough time on it to get it feeling good to everybody. That's really what wins races. Now that we're going to be a little short on, and we're a little worried about that right now.
Also making his debut in a GTP car is the defending Daytona 500 champion, Derek Cope, in a Tom Milner Racing Chevrolet Spice.
First impression is a lot different than a Winston Cup car. They're very unique in their own right. They got so much more braking force, and the car reacts to the throttle pretty well, and I just got to get used to getting in the corner, knowing when I have the brakes, and get used to the shifting pattern. But it's a unique experience for me, and I'm really looking forward to getting some more time in the car.
Most of the teams competing here this weekend are dedicating their racing efforts to one or more
of the Allied units serving in Operation Desert Storm.
So if one of those cars should win the race, the troops serving in the Persian Gulf will share in that victory. Bob, come down to sunny Daytona. Let's get this race on the tube from the booth together.
Thanks, David. We'll be joined in the pit area by Dave Despain and Marty Reed as for the first time ever we bring you 3 hours of live coverage of the Sunbank 24. It all begins tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern. An update tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, and then the final hour Sunday afternoon beginning at 3 o'clock. The National Hot Rod Association opens its season this weekend at Pomona, California. Several funny car and top fuel drivers tuned up for the event last weekend at Bakersfield. There was no head-to-head competition, just a chance to see who could go the fastest. One driver who wasn't there was 1989 top fuel champion Gary Ormsby. That's because he destroyed his brand new car in this blowover during testing the previous weekend at Firebird Raceway near Phoenix. Gary wasn't hurt in the crash, but spent last weekend getting his 1990 car ready for Pomona. At the final race last year, also at Pomona, Ormsby and Joe Amato decided the Top Fuel Championship in the final round with Amato coming out on top. Joe's back this year with a brand new car utilizing a unique ground effect system, and obviously it worked. He turned a 487, 274.55 miles an hour.
487, I mean, that's the all-time fastest speed anybody, or fastest time anybody's ever done in a top fuel dragster. I mean, we're real excited about the year coming up, but it looks like a lot of the other teams are really stepping up too. I mean, I think the competition this year is going to be real good. You're going to see a lot of cars in the 490s and a few of them in the 480s, I think, as the season progresses. But we're real happy with our Tim Richards put a new combination together for the fuel system and the clutch control, and it seemed to work good.
Joe failed to back up the run and ended up second fastest qualifier. Who was the fastest? Kenny Bernstein.
Well, we're happy. We were put some 4-second runs together, 499, 494, 494, and 501. That shows some consistency. Maybe we're back on track and we can be competitive this year against the other guys that are really flying. So we're anxious. We're hoping this will do it. Maybe next week at Pomona we'll be competitive with them.
Defending funny car champion John Force was also there, but the best he could do was third fastest with a 528. His team's been doing a lot of development work over the winter.
Well, in the motor department, Austin Coyle crew chief researched out a new blower design with 4 rotors inside of it, and we've run it at Phoenix last week and ran it here, and we're pretty excited about it. The car hasn't turned real big numbers, but she's run some 20s, so it's too early to tell, really.
The man he battled with for the funny car title last year, Ed McCulloch, had planned on running both a funny car and the top fueler that Shirley Muldowney used to run last year, but he's decided against that.
Well, we actually tested the car, the dragster, over in Phoenix in December, and then we were actually over there last week and ran it again. But it takes an awful lot to do both cars, and I'm involved in the funny car so much that it takes away too much. So we put Cruz Petragon in the car here and got him licensed, and he's doing a real good job. So I think Cruz is going to go ahead and drive the dragster.
Shirley Muldowney will compete in her own car this weekend at Pomona, but will spend most of the season looking for sponsorship for 1992. Later this month, she'll undergo surgery on her left foot, which was injured in that terrible crash at San Air Dragway in Canada several years ago.
Speedweek is brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Dodge. For performance, quality, safety, and value, welcome home, America.
Car news, Mark Dismore has been named full-time driver for the Arciero team. In capturing the Toyota West Coast Formula Atlantic Championship last year, Dismore won 80% of his races, best among North American drivers. Now stay tuned. We'll wrap up Daytona stock car testing in just a moment. Ended at Daytona last Saturday, and here are the final statistics. Oldsmobile had 3 of the top 5 fastest speeds, led by Terry Labonte at 195.933. Ricky Rudd and Ernie Irvin were tops among the Red Bow Tie Brigade. The fastest Ford was Davey Allison at 195.101. Michael Waltrip led the Pontiac parade, and Hut Strickland was best among the Buicks. Defending Winston Cup champion Dale Earnhardt was 15th fastest overall at 193.715. For the past 25 years, A.J. Foyt has made the annual trek to Daytona, but because of injury suffered in an IndyCar crash last summer, Foyt apparently has competed in his final 500 there. Benny Parsons explains in the first of a 2-part series from Foyt's hometown of Houston, Texas.
Bob, A.J. Foyt has announced that 1991 will be his last season as a driver. But yet in 1991, he wants to drive as well as he did in 1971. And the hard work has already begun.
Almost exactly 4 months ago, Foyt suffered severe foot and leg injuries in this crash at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Now, 3 months ago, while being treated at Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis, A.J. promised his fans that although he would miss the first part of the year, he'd be back for his 34th consecutive Indianapolis 500.
Foyt has been undergoing therapy here at the Houston Oilers training facility since mid-November with Oilers strength coach Steve Watterson. A rigorous 4-hour session greets A.J. every morning, and the progress has been beyond expectations.
This foot, which is really, from what he tells me, is the most important. He doesn't care about this one. This is brake.
That's the throttle foot. That's what we got to
This is the one we got to get more motion about.
The gas foot, right?
Yeah. I told him, I said, what about the brake? He goes, you hit the brake, you lose.
That's true. Like when I was talking about Daytona, I said, just forget it.
AJ's feet and legs are placed in a fluid therapy machine containing ground-up corn husks, heated to 112 degrees. The feet and toes are then massaged with a special cream. Next is the BAP sport.
This is very difficult. It looks like it's easy, but notice how his knee is staying there. And now what he actually do is just move the ankle, and every bit of that board has to stay in contact with the ground. It's much more difficult than it looks.
Even what appears to be the simplest tasks are part of the workout. The goal here is to get enough feeling back in the feet so Foyt knows when he's picked up 3 marbles at a time. Now, I mentioned earlier that progress had been beyond expectation. Here's probably the best example.
Okay, ready? 10 times. All the way up and all the way down. I'm going to hit that beeper. Ready? Go. 1, 2, 3. Come on, you got to kick it now. 4, 5. You keep that up, you may crack it. Come on. 6, 7, 8, 9. You cracked it on the 10th. First time ever. There you go.
At this moment, accomplishment of this goal brings more satisfaction and a bigger smile than a 5th win at Indy. After a stint with arm weights, it's off to the Orbiter, one of only 50 in the United States. It looks like a treadmill, but it's like walking on a trampoline. It exercises muscles, but puts no pressure on the joints. Finally, a few minutes on the exercise bike. Now, originally that was 5 minutes. The workout now has progressed to over half an hour.
I know we've made progress when the whine from the bike is louder than the whine I've heard from him.
All in all, quite an amazing story about this 56-year-old man who could have quit racing, but instead is working harder than he ever has in his life to return to the sport. Next week, we'll travel to his ranch to talk about his past, present, and future. For Speedweek, I'm Benny Park.
Of Texas World Speedway, which last week was purchased by the Ishin Corporation of Japan. That company announced plans on Wednesday to build a 2-mile super speedway oval and road course on 1,600 acres of land just west of the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport by mid-1992. The opening event of the Desert Off-Road season, the Score Parker 400, was run last weekend, and Steve Weiss filed this report.
Nearly 300 motorcycles, buggies, and race trucks lined up along the banks of the Colorado River, and there were plenty of American flags and yellow ribbons on hand to reflect the mood of the day. Dave Shop's Ford even featured a Saddam Hussein bullseye on his front skid plate. 43-year-old Jim Smith jumped to an early lead in his Porsche-powered buggy. He was chased by none other than Robbie Gordon, who showed up to drive his father's Unlimited buggy before heading off to Daytona with a season of NASCAR and IMSA racing ahead of him. Gordon had given up his full-size pickup ride on the new Ford BF Goodrich Rough Riders team to Rob McCachran, who found himself on his side in his first race in the big truck. Another member of the Rough Riders, Parker's Manny Esquera, had better luck in the Unlimited mini pickup class as he now attempts to defend his class crown. In the battle of the motorcycles, Larry Rossler and Ted Honeycutt teamed up to take the title, averaging nearly 60 miles an hour. The four-wheel race was close until Gordon lost his transmission with just 50 miles to go, allowing Smith to pass him and cruise home first in just over 6.5 hours. He said the key was getting ahead of the pack early.
The first lap, all the cars that were in front of me were fast. We ran fast. Nobody slowed anybody down.
Scott McMillan pushed his Ford to the title in the full-size pickup class and a third-place overall finish. Manny Esquera took top honors in Class 7 and credited his familiarity with the course. The race was marred when this vehicle, driven by Mike Lunn, later crashed into a canyon, killing the co-driver, 35-year-old Buzz Cohn. For Speedweek, this is Steve Weiss reporting.
There was also some indoor racing last weekend at the Mecca in Milwaukee. Leader Mac McClellan, the black number 35, tried to lap a slower car, ran up over its wheel, but survived. Second place, Mel Kenyon didn't, enabling Mac to cruise to an easy ARCA midget victory. Well, auto racing history was made in the late 60s when the midgets ran for the first time indoors on dirt on a track quite a bit larger than the one in Milwaukee. At the Hoosier Dome Invitational a couple of weeks ago, Tom Bigelow recalled racing in what was then known as the eighth wonder of the world, the Houston Astrodome. And that's the subject of this week's Dick Wallen Racing Classic. Here's Donald Davidson.
March 1969, and the nation's top open-wheel drivers like Mario Andretti, Bobby Unser, Mel Kenyon, and A.J. Foyt were on hand, and so was Tom Bigelow.
It was really a neat feeling, though, to be able to go down and run inside. It was hard to believe, you know, back there in '69, you hear about the dome, how big it was, and even people, when they come here for the first time, you walk inside, it's just amazing how big this building is.
In qualifying, hometown favorite Foyt thrilled the crowd with his classic dirt tracking style, but he was denied victory in both features, won by Gary Bettenhausen and Lee Kunzman. By finishing 4th and 5th, Bigelow was declared the overall winner.
The only bad problem with it was the dust. You know, they just couldn't keep it was dirt. They couldn't keep the dust down and plug the filters. I think also with the dust factor, in fact, that second year, I know they red flagged the race, and that was because we were running inside the flagman. We were just kept cutting shorter and shorter. Pretty soon, you know, you couldn't see where he was going, and I noticed the flagman on the right-hand side. I knew that was wrong. So I went way out by the wall, but then everybody stopped, and we wet the track down and finished the race.
Foyt went on to win the race in 1970, marking his only indoor victory. But dust problems experienced at the Astrodome have discouraged other dome facilities like it from hosting dirt track races. For Speedweek, I'm Donald Davidson.
Tonight, the war in the Persian Gulf continues to occupy most of our thoughts nowadays. Last weekend in Bakersfield, a couple of NHRA drag racers expressed their feelings on the matter.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to affect the sport. It's going to affect the country, obviously, and that's what's going on right now. It's a shame to see it, but it's something that needs to get done, and, you know, we just wish the best to all the guys over there.
Well, I'm sure that the Gulf War affect everything in the economy, which it already has, and motorsports will get affected by it as it goes. Hopefully it won't last very long, but make it perfectly clear that from the Budweiser King camp and certainly all the drag racing, we're 100% behind the boys and men over there and the ladies over there doing the job. And, you know, I sit back and I think about it today very hard that they're over there fighting to let us do what we enjoy today, and it means a lot to us, and I want those people to know that we really appreciate it.
And that will do it for another edition of Speed Week. Next week, we'll be on at the same time, Friday night at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. And we'll see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock with live coverage of the Sunbank 24. And we leave you this week with some highlights from last year's event. So long, everyone.
Has been brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Budweiser, the king of beers. Remember, know when to say when.